Okay, so you clicked on this video for a reason. You want to hear my biggest problem with Fortnite right now. Or you just randomly got selected this video. Either way, hey. But I want to let you know my biggest problem with this Fortnite season. I think a lot of people would agree with me. This season's been pretty good. Definitely not the best, definitely not the worst, but not nearly as bad as, some of the worst seasons. This has had a lot of good aspects to this season. But the biggest problem with this season is a very simple problem. They just destroyed visual sound effects. And visual sound effects, before you go on a tangent saying, this doesn't ruin the season or anything, I'm not saying it ruins the season. But this season gets brought down a lot because now the entire gameplay is just a lot worse in my opinion. Because rather than have, the gameplay that we used to have, now the gameplay is much more trying to get the jump on someone. Because of visual sound effects, you're not going to know if someone's coming up on you until they're reaching distance from you. I've had people not appear on visual sound effects till they're 5 feet away from me. Heck, I made a short about this, but I feel like this topic deserves a long-form video. And yeah, this topic is definitely something that a lot of people have strong opinions. But I want to give you the reasons why Fortnite nerfed it into the ground. So, a group of people were complaining online that it was very overpowered. And I'm not saying that it was, underpowered or anything, but I would say it was in a good state. A very good state, actually. And yeah, you kind of ran it, but you had to run it, but it's just a benefit for running it. Even if it wasn't as good as it was a benefit. Because then you couldn't get jumped. And it was, no matter what, visual sound effects you should put on. And I know with the title of this video, you're wondering, so wait, where did they ruin this? Well, let's go back to that small group to figure this out. Now, that small group was a very dedicated group, and mainly a group of, sweats. And it wasn't like there was this giant war where, 50% of the player base, was against it, and 50% of it was for it. No, it was a much more, less even collision. It was more like a 70-30, 80-20, kind of like that. And, of course, the majority was on the side of keeping it how it was. But that group of, competitive players really didn't like that. And it led to the nerf after a lot of complaining. And personally, I feel like that was a huge hindrance to the game and season. Because now I can guarantee you so many people have lost games simply because someone got the jump on them, luckily. And you know what would fix, that big problem? Visual sound effects. It stops that third-party element. And it doesn't give a huge buff to people with headphones. And it doesn't force you to get headphones. You have to understand is majority of the people who play Fortnite are casual. And are not really wanting to have to spend a bunch of money on the game. Or just on gaming equipment. And this is why stuff like ping, all kinds of stuff, frame rate drops, has been something that not many people care about. You don't hear someone complaining about their locations of the servers or something like that, or how they need more server spots. You don't hear anyone complaining about that because majority of the player base is casuals. And all the people who take it really competitively usually, move closer. All the best players, you can look at it, they live near servers so that they have the least amount of ping possible. And yes, this was an issue brought up by the same group of people who had problem with the visual sound effects. So now there's going to be a ping minimum and a ping cappage, and a frame rate minimum, and a frame rate coverage. And I really personally do not care about that stuff, but what I do care about is visual sound effects. As this isn't something that just affects you if you're a sweaty builds player or something like that. This affects everyone in the game. And I'm not sure if everyone realizes how much it affects just the gameplay in general. Because now, when you're playing a game of Fortnite, you have to constantly be looking over your shoulder because you know visual sound effects isn't going to let you know if someone's right next to you. Because like I previously mentioned, I've had moments where I was a matter of feet away from someone and they just got a free walk up to me and got the kill for free. And I'm not calling for some huge emergency buff. I'm just saying increase the range by a little bit. It doesn't have to be something insane. It can just be, it goes from a very short radius to a decent sized radius. I just want it to be buffed a little bit. I'm sure a lot of other people would. And like I previously mentioned, some people would complain that this got rid of a lot of skill and a lot of you having to pay attention to your surroundings. But ultimately, for a game that's meant to be very playable for everyone, they really did not focus on that when, they made that update to it. And really, I feel like it just does not benefit the game at all. Now, I know this is a weird topic to make a full-fledged video on, but trust me, I think everyone would agree that it really does affect gameplay. And I know they've given it a few minor buffs, but I still think that they should make it less finicky and more so, consistent. That's my biggest problem with it. Consistency. Sure, sometimes it can give you huge range stuffs, but a lot of times it doesn't give you any info. And it's really weird. And I know you can ask some people and they'll agree 100%. But ultimately, this kind of goes in with the trend of this season. This season has been really fun gameplay-wise and loot pool-wise. It has a lot of good things going for it. But at the same time, it has Epic Games and its stupid decisions. And I'm not really saying that this has been a bad season. I've enjoyed it. But there have been those minor things like this that kind of mess up the flow of the game. And on top of that, there have been, some crazy stuff going on with the community between events held by Epic and by recent news, such as how they have paid out, I think it was $1 billion to devs who made UEFN maps, if you just half it into $500 million, you could have saved those 1,000 people from losing their jobs. Now, surely not on amazing wages, but on livable wages. And it probably would have helped Fortnite if they just kept some of those people. They didn't have to keep all of them. I get that, some of their stuff they had to do cost money. And for Fortnite to stay alive, it cost money. But they really hurt it by laying off those 1,000 people, as now it, straight up, kind of messed up overall gameplay and everything. As now a lot of bugs have been taking more time to get fixed because a lot of the people who usually would have fixed it by now are laid off. And a good example of this is the Sprite Pod back bling. If you look at the Sprite Pod back bling, you're supposed to be able to hold mastered sprites in it. But it hasn't been working since the season started. That's right, it's not worked at all since the season started. And they're still fixing it, and it's supposed to come out in the next update. But this is just something that I feel like if they had those 1,000 employees still, it would have been fixed already. And all of this really is just a huge hindrance onto this season. Like I said, it's a really fun season brought down by Epic's own stupidity. I think they could have done a lot of stuff better. with this season? Yeah. But overall, gameplay-wise, it's been good. And once again, I have to emphasize this, Epic's own stupidity is killing this season. And ultimately, I think that is the huge problem with this season. And there's a lot more things that I can go on and talk about, but I'm sure you can, see that there's way too many problems for me to talk about in this video. And don't worry, I will have another video out this week on something different, but let's get back to the topic. All right. On top of those, layoffs they had, raising V-Buck prices. This is something that I personally do not mind too much if it wasn't for the fact that they also lessened the amount you got from V-Bucks. And I'm going to tell you straight up, for $20 back in, say, 2020, since the game started till very recently, I think, it was, for $20, you got around 2,800 V-Bucks, which was a really good deal. Around a little over 100 V-Bucks per dollar. It was like 180 V-Bucks per dollar of those $20. And that led really well, honestly. Now, I get that's also because it's like the first deal we got on those V-Bucks, but yeah. Now, for $22, almost $23, if it wasn't for the 1 cent missing, it would be $2,400 for practically $23. Now, I know that doesn't sound too crazy, but when you're gonna get that much less V-Bucks, if they kept the prices the same and lowered the amount of V-Bucks, okay. If they raised the prices on V-Bucks and kept the amount you got the same, okay. But you can't do both. And honestly, with the amount of money that they make now for those V-Bucks, it's honestly kind of insane. And I really think that they didn't have to do both to break even on what they were spending. And heck, they were already making profit. A lot of it, actually. But they didn't make as much yearly revenue, which really hurt the game. And I think that stuff, I know it's happened a little bit in last season also, but I really think that it hurt more than we knew back then. Because now we're having this season, which still seems kind of fully incomplete and almost complete, but still incomplete with, the Sprite Pod back bling, stuff like that, making it feel less complete than it should be. But with that, it's the end of the video. I'm going to say goodbye and see ya in the next video.